One of my favorite and sometimes hardest thing to do in the classroom is let students explore math. But the reward on the other end is so cool to see. So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing how you can harness the power of discovery and hands-on learning. Let's get started.
Welcome to Solving for the Undefined podcast. I'm your host, Johanna, founder of Miss Kuiper's Classroom, the place that equips teachers in creating a healthy math classroom where students can thrive, no matter their academic abilities. But it's not always about the numbers, and that's why I'm here, bringing you the formulas to solve your problems, math and otherwise, plus strategies on cultivating that necessary math mindset. And that's what you can count on.
Hello, welcome to a brand new episode. When I'm thinking about discovery and hands-on learning, it is such like a strong passion for me because I have seen it work so well for my students over my years of teaching, and I'm excited to be sharing it with you. During my student teaching year, the idea of who knows the Pythagorean theorem best? Probably Pythagoras because he and his crew discovered it. That idea stuck with me so hard that I've been trying to recreate discovery moments for students so that they could have ownership over their own learning and their own skills. In the episode today, I'm going to be walking you through the steps that I do to help students have space for that exploration piece. But one thing I wanted to share beforehand is discovery does not have to be this big, elaborate plan or this thing that you create. It can just be having students explore a single small problem, but not giving them the exact tools they need to solve the problem. Just letting them explore with whatever knowledge they already have, and then consolidate at the end, and then give them the more simplified way to solve this style problem. So step number one when you're creating a discovery task is the task itself. You're presenting students with like a story problem and having them come up with how to solve this problem. To give you a story problem type example, the math curriculum at my school has adopted, it's called mid-school math, and they do a really great job of setting up what they call simulations that have these stories that have students solving a problem. And one of them is about this lady who wants to create a new pen for her goats. And she knows that she wants to make the width 24 feet. And she has enough money to buy 140 feet worth of fencing. And then students are then tasked to figure out what is the length of the goat pen. Another example would be for geometric transformations, and this is one that I have done consistently for many years. And it's not as elaborate or story-driven as the goat pen one, but this one I have 4 different pictures of emojis on a graph, and each one has been changed in some sort of way. And I have students go around to these posters and describe what they see and what they notice. So it's kind of like a notice and wonder. But for one of them, the emoji has shifted from one quadrant to another. One of them, it's been turned. One of it, the size has changed. And then the other one has been flipped over like a reflection. And with this one, I have students just explain what they see. And that's moving into the second step of a discovery sequence, is having students solve the problem and allowing them the productive struggle. A lot of times when students are coming to these problems, they may not know what to do, especially if it's a more story-driven problem than my transformation of like, what do you notice, what do you see? And that's okay. This is where step 3 for us comes into play, and it's strategic questioning. It's a list of questions that help guide students through thinking through the problem because they may not be equipped to do it on their own yet, or they may not feel confident enough to work through their ideas, especially if they're someone who has struggled with math in the past. This may not be a place of their confidence, and this strategic questioning is going to allow them to think through the process of the problem. So thinking back to that perimeter problem, some of the strategic questions I might ask: what does she want the width of her new fence to be? How much fencing has she bought? based on the dimension she wants, how much fencing has she used? How much does that mean she has left? These type of questions may seem very simple, but it's helping students engage in the problem and think through the information that they have to find the information that they need to find out. During this discovery time too, it's okay if students do not find an answer or they get the wrong answer. This is just the discovery phase, the exploration, and sometimes we don't get things right when we explore. That's why the next piece, the consolidation piece, is the important part. This is where we are taking what students have seen and what students have discovered and bringing it into a more strategic format. So with like the discovery, the transformation piece, what I did was after students have put their words on the wall of what they saw, we then go over to each of them and kind of summarize what we saw. And then after that, it's a little while longer in the process, but I label it for them and be like, hey, we all saw that this one moved on the graph, but nothing else really changed about it. It just changed locations. We call this a translation. And I do that for reflection, rotation, and dilation. And then same thing for the goat pen one. And the curriculum actually does a great job of having simulation videos that are the resolution, and they're really cool because they usually show more than one way to solve the problem. One way being how students probably typically solved it with their prerequisite knowledge, and then the second version of where we want them to be. So the goal for the perimeter problem was to get them to start using distributive property, and that was the second way that they showed. But the first way they showed is probably students doing starting with the full length, subtracting the two widths, figuring out how many lengths or how much was left, and dividing it by 2 to find the length. So it's validating students who use that way to figure out the length of the new goat pen, but it's also pushing students to think further about what other ways could we have solved this problem, because now we're going to be learning distributive property. And this is where that last piece comes into play, the reflection. So after students have done the discovery, you've used some strategic questioning, you've consolidated and shown them the next steps, we are now going to reflect, thinking about what was the same between the strategy you used and the one you just saw. What was different about the strategies used? And maybe just like one thing you noticed. And overall, this process really helps provide students ownership, because the joy that they get when they get the answer correct is amazing to see, because it starts building that confidence in them that they can do math, even if it wasn't the exact method that was shown on the screen. They were able to solve the problem. And thinking about discovery as a whole for students, while I am super thankful for this math curriculum, I know it's not something everyone has access to, and there's not a lot out there otherwise. So that's why I decided to create Educator Exponential. It's a one-of-a-kind virtual conference for 5th through 8th grade math teachers who want to learn discovery and hands-on ways to teach specific concepts. So it's a different kind of conference where it's not learning strategies in your math classroom, but learning how to explore specific concepts that you already teach in your classroom, just in a discovery, exploratory, hands-on way. And the best part is it's free. So it's going to be October 18th through the 21st. So this Friday through Monday. And the goals of the conference is to help you learn specific ways to teach trickier math topics, develop a deeper understanding of how to help students master math, and build effective discovery hands-on lessons that will engage your students. To give you insight into what topics are going to be covered, we have increasing student understanding of fractions, prime factorization, algebra tiles for combining like terms into distributive property, solving equations with a balance beam, using counters for adding and subtracting integers, hands-on models to teach volume by me, simplifying radicals, linear equations, angles, transformations, inverses, exponents, and square roots, making math visual for those. And then some of our bonus topics are creative ways to engage students outside the textbook, exploring math through STEM challenges, using error analysis, and building number sense. If you attended Educator Exponential last year, some of those topics might sound familiar, but They are done by different presenters than last year, so you'll be getting a fresh perspective on those topics. So, it is a free conference, again, happening this Friday, October 18th, but you also have the option to upgrade to VIP to have more time to watch the videos. VIP means you get 4 months of access, and then VIP Plus means that you get 8 months of access plus a $50 bundle of resources to help you implement the lessons that you see in the videos. I hope to see you there, and you can get your free ticket by going to misskiper.com/expo. And I'll have that link down in the description as well as the show notes on my website. As always, if you have any questions regarding what we talked about in today's episode or Educator Exponential, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Miss Kuiper. And with that, I'll calculator.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. To find all the links and resources to things talked about in this episode, head on over to MissKuipersClassroom.com and click on podcast.